Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome back to the show. And as you can tell, today we are joined by a very special guest indeed. Today's guest has quite literally covered the whole spectrum of movies. So you kind of acting, and then we've had directing, cinematography, and I'm sure there's more that we haven't even covered yet. Today we are joined by Nicole Leier. Nicole, how are you today?
Really great. Thank you so much for having me on. I'm excited to chat with you.
It's really it's going to be a privilege to get to speak with you. Something that we don't really get to cover a lot on this show is somebody that's quite literally covered different aspects of the industry. So it's going to be really cool to kind of get your concept of how different departments work and how you kind of perceive the way that the industry is moving forward.
Yeah, I'm excited to chat about it. There's lots going on, lots of changes, but I think a lot of them are positive and excited to share.
Absolutely. So before we kind of get into your career and kind of the things you've been up to, I'd really like to get to know a little bit about you first. So, how did you kind of first start in the industry?
Yeah, I mean, my story is really unconventional. I left home at a young age, and the film industry actually saved my life, which is amazing. I was
Wow.
really lucky to find some great mentors and get into the industry. Fast forwarding through some of the more colorful experiences, and then was able to really carve out a space and learned a lot. Working in different departments. I learned a lot of my directing and my cinematography and my camera while I was a stand-in, which I was very lucky to do that to help pay bills when I was just starting out. And then just fell in love with telling stories and continually connecting with people, which I think is a lot of artists' goals, is to really connect through the work that we do with other artists and other people and show people they're not alone.
Yeah, that's one of the things I love about this industry is there is such a sense of community and togetherness, and there's something that is for everyone, and that people who maybe do feel alone, whether it's even in their personal lives or not, there's always something, there's always like a welcome in this industry. And that's kind of seems like that happened for you, so that's fantastic.
Yeah, I was really lucky. The story could have gone a lot of different ways, and lucky enough, and with hard work. I don't really believe in luck. I believe in consistency and hard work. But there must have been somebody looking out for me.
So
Some greater energy. Yeah.
so obviously I'm assuming that when you I guess you kind of did some acting before you kind of went into the directing and cinematography. Um,
Yes.
do you remember what that was like when you kind of booked your first acting gig and you first set? Like how was that experience for you?
It was scary as heck. It was really scary. Um, It's so there's a lot of different emotions that happen, through the audition process, which a lot of actors go through again and again and again. And that in itself is a huge feat, getting told no so much. And then finally booking your first gig is one of the most exciting things. I remember jumping up in my trailer on one of the first gigs that I booked. And I was really lucky. I booked three gigs back to back to back. Like I was on a roll, like right off the bat. So I booked a TV series for 5 years, sports pages, and then I worked with James Cameron, a smaller part, but on oh, what was that movie? It's so long ago now, Dark Angel. And I remember in my trailer on the first gig jumping up and down, like so excited and shaking the trailer. And the AD, and not knowing, you just don't know at that age. You've
Mhm,
never
yeah.
that you've never had a trailer, and somebody knocking and they're being like, Nicole, can you just not jump? You're like rocking the other end of the trailer. And I was like, oh, by the way, I have no idea how to turn this off. So it's gonna happen through the
Oh,
interview.
it's fun. I know sometimes balloons appear as well. I
Yes, I
don't
get
know what
fireworks
happens.
too.
I'm like, oh, it's a surprise.
Yeah, so I remember that moment of just being so elated and so so like on the top of the world, and you get addicted to that feeling as an actor. You really, really do. And then, there was other experiences on set, like, learning your marks, learning camera angles, learning all of those different things, and learning relationships. As a child actor, you have to learn really quickly. And so there was a lot of different things, but I'll never forget that booking of that first gig, and just the sheer excitement and the gratefulness. You never know if it's going to happen in this industry, and when it finally does, it's a wonderful, wonderful feeling. And then, later in life, learning that you can't put all of your importance into that. You have to find your way as an artist, and it's not always about, you want to book gigs, yes, but you have to find your importance and your root, and it has to be deeper than that. And so that's when I really started figuring out, like, oh, I need to book my own work. I need to write my own projects. I need to direct my own projects. And that's what's going to sustain me as an artist in this industry. Because if I just keep waiting around, it's going to be audition, 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 and then waiting to get that feeling of booking. And then it's always in somebody else's hands. And like I said, I truly believe in hard work and consistency. So I had to start to create my own projects, which I think is important for a lot of artists.
I've been reading quite a lot about your career and the pathways you've taken in your sort of in your world kind of so far in your career. And it really, truly, not just saying this because you're here, like it's really inspiring. It's interviewing actors who love their craft and love acting is amazing. And and obviously there's a long it's very, very difficult to get a lot of rejections before you get that one positive. But something I love about your story is you just manifest and create your own path, and you just seem to, from what I'm reading, you just seem to excel in every single aspect that you kind of set your mind to. It's really inspiring to kind of like read your path and think, do you know what? Anybody can, if they put enough effort and work and time and dedication to it, anybody can really achieve kind of what they want to achieve.
Wow, that means a lot to me, and thank you so much for those kind words. And I do believe that. I do believe anybody who wants to do what they want truly can manifest it. If I love Jim Carrey's story about how he manifested the famous check. And I don't know where mine is. I have one of those. And I truly believe you can. You really can. And it just has to be supported by the right actions. It has to be supported by the right mentality, and by the right energy that, it comes from within you. And so I try to help as much as I can, and move forward. And it's important. It's important to let people know that it is possible, because I think, like you said, a lot of young actors, they do get downtrodden, and they, because it's a long haul. This isn't something that you just do for a while and then you're like, okay, it's not working out. Like, if we were accountants, we'd be like, okay, I can't do math. I'm going to move on to like something else. No, like once you have this calling in your life, it is who you are. You become all consumed by it. And there's no giving up. So thank you.
No, thank you. Thank you for kind of giving people that kind of pathway to and inspiration, I guess, to really kind of push out for what they want to do. Um, so when you were starting and when you were kind of going through your career, it could even be directing or acting. Who was it that kind of inspired you, or did you have any stories or any, even maybe were you a fan of somebody's work that made you think this is what I want to go into?
You know what is so funny is I'm really bad with the names. And I'm
So,
I'm trying to get better. I really have some people I admire now. Like, I love Quentin Tarantino's work. I love Ava DuVernay's work. And those are people who I really look up to. But for a really long time in my early career, I would always say I don't have anybody that I look up to. And I really didn't, just because of I had a really hard home life. I didn't really have, I wouldn't say I didn't have access to it, but I just didn't know that that was something that you could do. Like, I'm not one of those
yeah.
people that was like, oh man, one day I'm gonna be like Quentin Tarantino is the most amazing film director and writer, and I get to watch all his films. I was watching, my family It's very country. We were watching like a lot of like Clint Eastwood films, a lot of like those kinds of films. And so while they probably did inspire me, I didn't really have the names or the knowledge to look up to them. And so it was sheer pig-headedness on my part, maybe, which sometimes was helpful. You know, sometimes it's really helpful just to not know and to keep going. And I do think that maybe arrogance or whatever it was got me through those times, but now I have so many people, and you know there's no excuse once you get to a certain age not to self-educate, and that's something that I've always done. You know, I'm a high school dropout. I never went to film school, and so I'm completely self-taught, and there comes a part in a life and an experience, especially for me, where you can't make excuses anymore. You have to educate. And so now I have that, but I didn't really have a lot of inspiration, not because I didn't want it, because I wasn't educated in that. No one told me like,
Yeah.
"Oh, hey, you can watch these films. This is something that you can do." Where my, I guess, quest or where it started to come from is, like I said, my home life was really tough, so I would often daydream a lot during classes. I would often fall asleep because home life was, there was so much turmoil, so I couldn't sleep, and
Mhm.
there were things going at home. So when I would get to school, I would daydream and kind of zone out. And that's when my imagination kind of went crazy. You know, you kind of create this life where you think, oh, wouldn't it be cool if, or wouldn't life be better if? And then I would notice that I would create like little movies. Maybe I was just insane. Um, and then later in my career, I was like, oh my gosh, what I'm seeing is the images as a director. And if I can translate that into a script, I can translate that into a movie. And just one more thing on that, actually, just last year, I was having this really interesting conversation with some artists, and I found out that not everybody does that. So when you talk about different film scenes, like if I say, you know, there's a field with lavender, very simple thing. Some
Mhm.
people will see the field with lavender and then they will add the sunshine, or they'll add the farmer, or they'll add like whatever they're seeing. But a lot of people will just hear the words, but directors add the images. And that's how I think in our industry, directors are separated from actors or from writers. I think writers have, like, when I write, I see the images, but not
Mhm.
everybody sees those images. And that blew my mind because I was like, doesn't everybody see little movies in their head? Like every day, every second, I'm seeing these little movies in my head. I guess, you know, only for the truly insane.
I love that. You know, it's like I said, sometimes it makes it feel like, is it really embedded in your soul? If that's how, if you're kind of seeing a movie or images through your mind, like maybe that's where fate and destinies kind of drives you to kind of that path.
That
Um,
sounds nice. I like that.
yeah. So I guess with your directing career, what was it that made you take that first leap? Was it always something you thought I'm going to do, or was it
Oh.
something that just happened?
Yeah, no, I never aspired to be a director, but then when I found out it was a possibility, because I didn't even know, especially as like a Black female, a young girl, right? As an actor, you're like, okay, I'm gonna be an actor. I'm gonna be the best actor I can be. I'm gonna pour everything into it. And then times got tough, and I needed to do stand-in work. I needed to do extra work to pay my bills. You know, I never had any financial support from anybody. It's completely self-made. And then I found out watching the camera guys, I'm like, well, wait a minute. And as a stand-in on some of the bigger shows, you know, I worked with Ice Cube. I was on some of the bigger shows, which was, I was very lucky to have those parts. I was like, wait a minute, what's that person doing? And it's like, oh, that's the director. And I'm like, oh, wow. They're like working with the camera, and like, can I learn more about the lenses? And I got very lucky with a lot of amazing technicians that I worked with over the years, who were very kind to me. And, you know, in between takes, when there was time on set, they would show me and like actually let me like play around with the focus and play around with the lenses. And from there, I just couldn't get it out of my head. I was like, oh my gosh, like these movies that I'm seeing, I can make them, like I can write them, I can do this. And so it was something that came to me gradually. Um, but I never expected to be this obsessed with it. Like to want to like act and direct. And, I have aspirations to be like the Handmaid's Tale. I think it's amazing what she does in that, where she's like acting and directing and producing, minus the Scientology stuff. But respect, everybody has their own ways. But it's just wild to me that it's something that we get to do. Like it's such a privilege and an honor. And so it grew on me. It wasn't something that was always there.
Wow. Have you, I mean, I'm not sure how this would work, but I know it must happen. Have you ever directed a movie that you've also acted in?
Yeah, I just did that for the first time. Actually, so
How does that work?
it's very difficult. I learned so many wonderful lessons. So I just finished this movie called Breakout Hit. It's a thriller. It's going to be coming out the end of this year. And I wanted to make sure one of the things I put in my contract is executive producer, actor, and director. And so I gave myself a smaller part. Um, and it was very interesting. And the day that I was acting was one of our biggest days. It was day 3. It was a packed, I think we had like a 14-page day, if I'm remembering correctly. And what you feel as an actor director is you feel your brain breaking a little bit because directing is very technical. It is creative, but it's on the other side of the brain. And acting is fully creative, where you're just emotions. So I could actually, I don't know if I'm making this up, maybe I am, but I felt like I could feel this switch, like in between when I would call cut and then go back and like talk to my producer and my first AD who were watching the monitor for me. Um, and then go back into it. And we had an amazing actress, the lead on that show, um, Monique Coleman from High School Musical, was just so sweet. And I was in the scenes with her and she was really kind. But it was the best, most amazing, most stressful, horrific, scary, wonderful experience in my life. And I can't wait to do it again. Like it's so addicting as well. Yeah.
Oh, that it was something that I mean I've interviewed a couple directors, but no one has ever done sort of acting. So, but being an actress, I was like, oh, I really wonder if that was even possible and how that works. So it's interesting. If I ever get the opportunity to ask someone, I'll see if they kind of can break it down with their sort of brain as well. That'd be interesting.
I think that that would be absolutely amazing. Sorry, I just had to
No, you're
text one.
okay.
I apologize. I
No, you're all
have
good. Um, so being somebody that obviously you've definitely, I mean, everything you've learned, as you've said, you've worked through the industry, you've picked up information from people, and you get to work with people. And being an actress as well, do you feel that when you're then going to be a director, that that gives you, do you think maybe your cast can kind of connect with you on a different level because you're an actress? Or do you feel that maybe they very much separate the actress from the director?
I think it helps so much. I can't speak for my actors on set. Like, I mean, I think there is always an interesting thing in a professional setting if the director's asking for something or if you're working with another actor. But I
Mhm.
always encourage all of my actors to speak up. And when you're working in TV as a guest director, um it's very important to, those actors have been playing those parts from the beginning of the show. So they really know their characters and it's more about supporting their choices. But in terms of my experience as a director and actor, it's been nothing but made my acting better, made my understanding for what the actors are going through, made my communication better. And I encourage a lot of actors to get out there and direct. Like it's so eye-opening to what all of the different teams are going through, to seeing what the director's dealing with, and your respect for the work just goes through the roof because you
Mm.
realize it has nothing to do with you. Like you have your part as an actor and it's very important that you're there, but I think sometimes it's important to realize like the story is the most important and that's what it all has to be about. It's not the individual, and that's what I mean by that.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, so with as the director, I know I guess it could be quite hard from yourself to kind of get to analyze it a bit. So, but would you say that when you're directing a scene, or whether it's a movie or a short film or whichever it may be, um, do you allow your actors to have a little bit of play and a little bit of free roam with the scripts, or are you very keep it structured and tight to exactly how it is kind of on the pages?
Yeah, I don't particularly like improv, and I think you can always tell even in these, $80 million movies when you're working with like even the most amazing actors like Pacino, and you can always tell when they're improving. And yes, those moments might be fire and might be so unique and amazing and support the story, but there is something that um from rehearsal and process and really knowing the script that I do hold on to as a writer and director. And it's important that for me, my actors on set follow the script. I'm not a big fan of improving. And that may change, like maybe I haven't just worked with, the right actors or the right script, or I haven't written the right script, and maybe that will come, but not a fan of improving. And it also makes your editing so hard.
Yeah.
So, like, that's one thing, like, as a director, when you're shooting, if the actors are, like, improving all of this stuff, well, when you get into edit, you're fucked, excuse my language, but
Yeah.
you can't sometimes won't cut together because they did something different on every take. Yeah, so not a fan of improv at this point in my career.
No, as you said, I definitely think it comes down to the type of script that that's being sort of played. But again, it's to me, it's just really interesting to get a director's perspective. Obviously, we hear a lot of actors' perspectives of whether they love improv or love free roam, but it's all I always like to understand what the director's like as well. Um, so when we come to sort of talking about the budgets and the budgets that you've directed, do you feel a pressure difference whether it's a very low budget as compared to a higher budget, or do you just kind of treat it completely the same regardless of what the budget may be and what you're filming?
Well, first of all, there's always pressure as a filmmaker, as an actor. There's always this pressure because we all want to do a good job, and I think that comes through like in life, no matter what your job is. But we definitely feel that on set. And in terms of a budget, I'm one of those people that um, no matter what project, if I say yes to the project, you're getting all of me. And I think that's why I continually work with like a lot of the same producers because they know I really don't half-ass anything. I'm just so passionate. And once I call it finding the hook in to a story. Once I find that hook in, I'm just kind of like a dog with a bone. So at that point, once the contracts are signed and I'm in, I'm 100% in, and the budget is the budget. It's going to fluctuate. The line producer and the networks, they're going to have to do whatever they do, and I let them handle that. But for me, the art and the story are what is so important. And yeah, I don't think I could if I tried treat it differently based on the financial restraints or the gifts that we're given, because you just have to find a way. So yeah, I'm all in. I'm not even kind of I am all in once I get into a project. That's all that is going on for me is how can we make this project the best it can be with what we have?
Yeah, absolutely. I haven't had the opportunity to see it yet. It was quite difficult to find in the UK, but I found a link. So I really wanted to try and watch Sworn Justice
Yeah.
Taken for Christmas before. Unfortunately, I couldn't. I've seen trailers and scenes, but I found a link now that I can watch it. So that'll be watched tonight. Um, the some of the scenes looked unbelievable, and I really liked the concept of the movie, and I'm really looking forward to kind of getting to watch it. So for you to direct a movie like that, how was that for you?
That was a really exciting moment because being able to direct an action film as like a female and as like a back female was a big deal. There's not a lot of action film directors that are females out there. And we had a blast. And it was crazy. Like we had car chases, we had club fights, we had stunts, we had a huge fall that we did. And, the support that I got from BET was absolutely amazing. And they were really into what I was doing as a director, so much so that they actually gave me final cut on the film, which I hear is like unheard of, like it's reserved for like Scorsese and stuff, but they gave me final cut, which I was so grateful for, to be able to have that as an up and coming director. And it was really fun, and there was challenges. There's always challenges and difficulties on set, but you work your way through it, and that's why you have I'm a firm believer in surrounding yourself with people who have way more experience than you, because you're not always going to know the answer. You're not. You're just not. And if you think you are, then go do something else, because just because you say that, like, no, sometimes your best idea comes from the PA who it's his like second day on a film set ever. And he's like, "Did you ever think about this?" And you're like, "Thank you. Thanks, kid. I'll be right back." So I just believe in that creative process for everybody and making sure everybody has a good time on set. So yeah, it was crazy. It was a wonderful experience. And I'm happy to move on from that project too. I think our next film after that is even better, and just telling better, bigger stories with bigger budgets. It's very exciting.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, that's always the kind of the great way with directing, especially, or even acting, is that you can always look to try and better the previous one. So obviously, I know a lot of people can't talk about it, so if you can't, that's fine. Do you have any up and coming projects that you can tell us about that you can share with the people?
Yeah, I have two. I'm not sure how much I can say. I can tell you the information that's on IMDb. So Breakout Hit is coming. And I executive produced, acted, and directed this one. It's a thriller film. It's going to be on A&E Network, starring Monique Coleman, which I'm very excited about. I'm really proud of what we were able to create. I think it's my best film yet as a film director, just the look and how it came together. And then I don't know how much I'm allowed to say that about this one, but next week I fly out. I'm acting in another BET film, which is a really nice thing. So I'm just going out to New York and I'll just be acting in that. I think that's all I'm allowed to say. Maybe I can come back and we can talk about that. So those are the two major projects this year that I have going on.
I cannot wait to watch the movie you have directed coming out. Do you say the end of this year?
Yeah, it's called Breakout. Well, I think they're changing the name, but for now it's called Breakout Hit. It's on IMDb, so keep an eye out for that. And of course, I'll be sharing on my Instagram all of that information.
Absolutely. And what I'll do is I'll make sure to link all of your social medias at the top of the description so people can kind of just click on the link and you kind of go all straight to your Instagram, your Facebook, all these kind of pages. Nicole, just before we leave this interview, just a couple more questions if that's okay.
Of
These are questions we ask every guest. Um, so if you had one actually, I'm going to maybe change it slightly for you. So it could be acting or directing. If you could act or direct one specific movie or genre or story, what would that be?
My goal is to make this film that I wrote that is a Django meets Kill Bill script, and that's my dream, but it is definitely like a $20 million plus budget film. So my dream is to make that project and to always be directing projects that I direct and act, but also write or have at least a co-writer that I work in or work with. So that's my dream, is really drama, slice of life films that help people through their life, but also just very rooted in reality and telling stories that matter and that hopefully make the world a better place. That's what I want to do as an artist.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that. Um, do you have any advice for the people watching or listening? Doesn't have to be about the industry, it could even be just life advice. But is there anything you'd like to kind of share with people watching and listening?
Yeah, I like I put these silly stickers on myself. It's I know it's backwards. It says never give up,
Yeah.
but it's like I wear this when I'm like prepping, and it's so simple, right? Everybody says this in our industry: never give up, keep going, you got this, like just keep persevering. But it is really true. And one of the most famous sayings, for anybody that's listening is like, on those days that you don't want to get out of bed, that's when you're going to do the most important work. And I have days where I don't want to too. And I have days where I don't. We all have those days. But at the end of the day, it's not this. Your career is never going to be like this. It's literally going to be like this. And the most important thing is to never give up.
I love that. Nicole, thank you sincerely so much for joining us today. And I truly mean it. You are listening to your story, talking to you, and reading all the information I've read about you. You are truly one of the most inspiring people I have come across to date. So, you know, I really hope and wish you all the best for your career, and I hope we can have you again on the show soon.
I would love to. You're such a great interview, and I love speaking with you, and I can't wait to do it again. Thank you so much for having me.